as I can, kind of thing.
Yeah. So, saying that,
Yeah.
I mean, with all the disparities that is going on, they're not following what they're took an oath to. Would you say?
No, no. I mean, let me paint the picture. I'm not saying that all doctors are doing this to all patients by any means. And it turns out that maybe if you look at all of the healthcare disparities, it turns out that maybe, and this again is not my opinion, this is research, but that maybe about a third of them are, which is I mean, particularly if you're in that third, but about a third of the patients are experiencing these disparities to various degrees. So it's not everybody, every African American or every Asian person, no matter what, every woman's going to get disparate care. That's not the case. But there shouldn't be any getting disparate care. People should be able to be expected to be treated equitably, and that's what we try to focus on. And I'm sure you're going to ask me how you do that, but
Yeah,
I'll
how do
wait
you do
until you ask me.
that?
Education, education, education. Yeah, I think that's it. And to the credit of Dr. Farrington, that includes education of the patient. And
You have to ask him to include the question in that answer.
oh yeah,
Because he just answered the question directly, and it would be without context.
Okay, so how would you help patients to overcome disparities?
well, you, how do you help patients? How do you help patients to overcome disparities? Um, education, education, education is a start, and that education includes telling them that they are entitled to good health care. They are entitled to equitable health care, or at least they're health care that does not penalize them in any way because of who they are and where they are in life and so forth. Um, and educating the caregivers, the physicians, the nurses, and the whole policy of hospitals. I mean, hospitals need to be dedicated to providing equitable care, and they need to include that in their mission, and like they manage it the same way that they manage other important missions that they may um, attest to or may commit to. And that means putting it, giving financial support, giving administrative support, um, giving training to individuals, including it in the reward system. And again, just like they do anything else, if they decide that doctors and nurses should wash their hands, whatever they do about that to make sure it happens, they can look at that and know and understand it's a different situation, but know and understand that practices can be geared and controlled so that you minimize, almost eliminate disparate care.
So, let's take the example of asking a physician to wash their hands if you didn't see. Sometimes you'll hear about a story about how the physician blackballed them or blacklisted that patient because they felt like, why are you telling me this? Why are you telling me to wash my hands? You sound like you're gonna be a problem. You can't come here, and I'm gonna make sure you don't go anywhere else. What do you say about that? There's some of that goes around.
Well, I hope it's not much of it, but I can imagine. The question is, what do you do about the caregiver or the physician who is overtly abusive or overtly hostile and not providing good care to a given patient? And I think hospitals have control mechanisms now. I mean, certainly the more humane, engaged hospitals at least have patient satisfaction forms that can be filled out, and doctors can get feedback on how patients are evaluating them. Some doctors, some of the programs are pretty sophisticated. They can tell you how well you do with elderly Asian patients in general, or here's the kind of review, or here's the kind of response or satisfaction you're getting with African American male patients, et cetera, et cetera. And so these are mechanisms that hospitals and institutions understand. But still, I'm disappointed that there isn't more of this going on, and it isn't higher on the priority list of things that hospitals are committed to. And I'm not alone. I mean, I'm not one person working on it. Many people are working on it. But I'm profoundly disappointed that our politicians don't even mention healthcare disparities in their dialogue and their discussions of healthcare. That is really unconscionable, and we are not that much of an inhumane society. We are more of a humane society than that, but somehow that falls into the background, and the major discussions are, power manipulations, economic issues around the disparities, which exist in the presence of the disparities, and that's great. That's of great concern to me, and it's shocking. As many people as are aware of it, as many leaders, medical school deans, hospital CEOs, outstanding concerned physicians, nursing societies, medical societies, and still it continues, and still it doesn't get on the table in the dialogue and the debate and the discussions among the politicians, who ought to be out of it anyway, as far as I'm concerned. It would be much better if there were just the most intelligent and knowledgeable people about these issues were making the decisions, rather than the people who are all too primarily concerned about what the political outcomes are going to be, not what the outcomes are going to be for the care of the patients. It's really, it's very frustrating. I can't emphasize that enough.
I know, I am sure. So what made you want to step out in front and be an advocate for?
Well, I guess.
Were you privy to certain situations?
Well, you don't really need to. The literature, the medical literature, is full.
Right.
I mean,
So
you don't have to. You don't need to be. I mean, you don't need that to step out and speak up. Is what I'm saying. But yes, I've seen it. But no, I've practiced in. No, I haven't seen much of it myself in my direct practice. I really haven't. I mean, certainly, I've been very. I would be shocked and amazed if I had been guilty of any of those things. But even that, I mean, even my colleagues, I can't say that I've seen colleagues where I said, hey, why didn't you give Mr. Jones another visit or a myelogram? I don't think I've seen that. It may be there, but I haven't been looking for it among my colleagues. I've just been working, taking care of patients at the time. But it comes from the literature. And occasionally, of course, I will meet a patient, not in my clinical context, but in the context of having been harmed in some way, hurt in some way by disparate care. That I've had some discussions around that.
Okay. Yeah. You talked about the 11th commandment.
Sorry, but he said in the answer, what drove him to get involved?
Okay. Well, okay. Let me rephrase the question. What drove you to get involved? What drove you to be an advocate? What drove you?
An advocate for health equity?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've always, wanted to spend some of my time and energy trying to do the right thing. Trying to make a difference in an area where a difference should be made, and trying to do something about social justice. I haven't done a lot. I mean, I was not a major player in the civil rights movement, but I had a lot of heroes who were in it, and I was very supportive of it. But there's always been part of me that wants to try to move the agenda for what's right and what's good, particularly if it's in a situation where I have some leverage. And this turns out to be a situation where I had a lot of leverage. I had time, I had resources, I had energy, I had the library, I had the medical institution, and all of those things. And so I said, okay, you need to step up to the plate and do what you can. So what can you do? Well, you can write about it, or you can come and talk to a nice lady about it who would ask you questions and smile. And so, so that's kind of how I got into it. I mean, it was like, it was all teed up for me. All I had to do was get in and start flailing away at it and swinging at it.
Your dad didn't start it off first for you?
My dad?
Yeah, your father?
Well, my dad passed away when I was 8 years old. And I, of course, knew he was a doctor, and I understood what he did as a doctor. And I'm sure he influenced me tremendously. But again, a lot of it was subconscious, I think. I mean, I can't remember seeing, well, gee, I just want to be just like my dad or whatever. But one thing, people would always say what a good man he was, or what you should try to be like your dad. He's good and he takes care of people, and he's a doctor. He's a good doctor. He's a great, and those kinds of things surely impressed me. Yeah.
All right, so I want to go back to your 11th commandment.
Okay. Yeah.
You had talked about the 11th commandment in one of your speeches you had done, and even in your book, Seeing Patience. What is your 11th commandment?
The 11th commandment. Well, a lot of people don't know about the 11th commandment. And whenever I get a chance, I like to try to tell them and teach about it, because I think it's very important. Well, as you know, Moses came down Mount Sinai with 2 tablets, 2 huge tablets. And, on those tablets were the commandments, and